Now look guys, if there's one video game series I love, it's Resident Evil. In 1996, Capcom released the very first of those games, and the story of Umbrella's bioweapons facility hidden inside of a creepy mansion went on to become extremely popular. Another game came 2 years later, released in 1998, that was Resident Evil in the City, with zombies and monsters taking over the small town in what many people consider to be one of the coolest video game sequels ever made. Now, like I said before, I am a huge fan of this franchise. I was a big Jurassic Park fan growing up. Resident Evil with dinosaurs was Dino Crisis in 1999. Used to scare me and my friends to death. But one thing I'm not a big fan of have been those Resident Evil movies. I don't really know too much about them. I've seen one or two. I've laughed very hard. They are fun in like an underworld on crack sort of way. But yeah, I honestly haven't watched many of them. Well, now we've gotten a brand new movie based off the brand. This time adapting the first two Resident Evil games I just talked about into a allegedly more faithful adaptation of the source material than those other Resident Evil movies from a few years ago. But is this really the greatest Resident Evil movie ever made? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. It's a brand new movie, or it's actually kind of old. Came out last year, took me a while to see it. It is the newest Resident Evil film, and it has just come out alongside the new Resident Evil TV series, which I don't think I'm going to watch, to be honest with you, but yeah, so Welcome to Raccoon City. It is a 2021 action horror film written and directed by Johannes Roberts. It basically combines the first Resident Evil game with the second, only really what they're doing is combining the two remakes, the original one that came out back in 2002 and then the Resident Evil 2 remake from 2019. And I have a lot to say about this movie. Now, number one, in terms of, movies like The Godfather, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, whatever, this is not that caliber. Horror movies in general, a lot of these things are usually lesser in quality. It's been a very long time since I've seen Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil 1. I only saw the first one and Apocalypse. After that, I tapped out. But this movie is very different. So I will say this one's much more faithful to the source material, and I actually would go as far to say that it's directed well. It has decent special effects for let's see what the budget was on this thing. It was $25 million. So yeah, it's not too bad. I think that the actors for the most part did a pretty good job, including Chris Redfield. I thought was really good in the movie. I guess my big thing with the film, though, and it's very noticeable, sometimes characters say things, and I'll go into the plot and everything later, don't worry. Just all of the dialogue in this movie, for the most part, is just so unbelievable and silly and cheesy. And yes, I know the original Resident Evil games were like that. They even referenced the Jill sandwich line. And by the way, Barry wasn't in this. I thought that was a little weird.
This is the ultimate life form. Tyrant. Rick. Stop it.
But it's just not that great. Like when characters say things, I get completely taken out of the movie. What I see on screen, I see as like an honest attempt, but what's coming out of their mouths, I just kind of laugh and just, I don't know, man.
Hands! Show me your hands!
There was so much of it that I thought was fun to see as a big fan of the games, like the Moonlight Sonata thing. It was cool to see the liquor. It was actually really cool to see Lisa Trevor, although, I mean, I guess she blew up. There's a lot of this movie that is just all over the place and it's kind of weird structurally, because they're combining Resident Evil 1 and 2 in a similar way that Mortal Kombat from 1995 combined the first two. Dude, Mortal Kombat from the 90s is still like one of my favorite video game adaptations ever. I don't think anything's gonna change that, but yeah, this movie tries that. It didn't really work for me, guys. I hope you can tell that I'm not someone to come out and just like attack or bash this film, because it's like, I can really see that their heart was in it. Like, this movie goes out of its way to be shot for shot, especially on the Resident Evil 2 remake. They are really trying to replicate that game in a live action film. Unfortunately, I think that the way they went about merging the stories and all of the writing with the characters' dialogue just doesn't work for me. It's not great. It's something that I think really should have been given one last look around, like to actually touch up and finish, because the set design, the creature model design, the actual sound design, it's good, man. Like, they tried. This is trying to be like those games. It's just not doing the greatest job it can, and I don't know if that's under the circumstances it was given. I know this was made during the pandemic, but yeah, man, I will say this. I would have no problem watching this in the future. You just have to understand, I'm never gonna like say this is a great movie, because it's not. They tried, and as a big fan, I'm really happy they tried. I would love to put this on again, especially up against the original Resident Evil from 2002. The movie that Paul W. Sanderson did. Yeah, it's very silly, and it comes off as kind of goofy with a lot of the characters. Characters are just kind of like there to be there. They have like a reimagining thing over the plots of the first two. Obviously, when you mix them together, you're not going to be a 100% accurate adaptation. The way Richard dies, the way Brad dies, the way Chief Irons dies. No Mr. X. They did do Birkin, and I thought Birkin looked pretty good. They did do Hunk for like 5 seconds, which was odd unless there's like a post-credit scene, but I didn't, I cut it off after the credits started. Yeah, my thoughts on the movie are like, I'll say this is a movie that I think I and some of my friends would have really loved to have made ourselves, but I don't think it's a great finished product for the masses. And I think the other thing this really hammered home to me, and I've known this for years, but like, Hollywood right now has an extreme issue with, I guess, just writing in general, because after you see so many movies that are not just adaptations of other work, but just movies in general that Hollywood is cranking out, and each one of them, it seems over the years, gets more and more, they just treat the audience like we're dumb. And I don't know if I guess it's intentional. They just, of course they're not wrong. The audience is dumb today. Look at the movies that make tons of money. But, I like to think of myself as not like the loosest screw in the, world. So yeah, just a lot of stuff, a lot of exposition delivered, especially by the truck driver at the beginning, especially by Dr. Birkin, especially by just every scene where a character has to deliver exposition in this movie instead of us seeing it on screen. It's so forced, and it's so silly, and it's so fake, and it just doesn't feel like real life. Again, I will say this, directing wise, I think this is a pretty slick looking movie, especially for the budget. I think it captures the feel of Resident Evil. I think it captures the tone. I think it captures the, actual look of the world. And I think the characters actually catch for the most part. The actors do a good job at portraying who they're supposed to. It's just that as a movie, it doesn't work very well for me. I didn't walk away from this hating it, by the way. I know I'm kind of giving it a very, very harsh criticism, but that's just because I'm a big fan of Resident Evil. I will watch this again, and I will smile while watching it, but I will never say that this is one of the greatest films ever made or anything like that, and I don't think anybody working on it would want to either. It was, as my friend Tony from Hack the Movies says, fine and fun. I think I have a more negative feel on it than Tony and Kieran do. Check out their review if you haven't already. I haven't finished it just yet because I had to watch the movie itself. I am going to go back and watch Paul W. Anderson's original, though, because that's a movie I haven't seen in a long time, and it's one that I am really interested to see how it holds up in today's day and age. Those are all just my thoughts on, I guess, not just Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, but the current state of film in general. Now, I'd love to hear what all of you guys think, because I know I've given some critiques here, but yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I'd love to hear what other fans have to say of the Resident Evil games and, other movies they've done and stuff. So whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be, I would love to hear all about them in the comments down below.